But I mean, like, you think about all this, right, with like, all them poor kids and everything like that.
Yeah.
But how are they supposed to, like, avoid all the bad influences that come on them? Like the other day, right, I go down to old Mr. Patel's and I take this video home, and it was Return of the Zombie Flesh Eaters with their axes and chainsaws, right? I'll get it home and I'll watch it. Would you believe it? Would you fucking believe it? Oh, it was a video nasty.
Turn on your television set. Find out what's happening in the real world.
Hello, my name is Stephen Benalik, and I love horror movies. But I'm getting scared. Again.
Research is taking place, and it will show that these films not only affect young people, but I believe they affect adults as well.
A few years ago, David Cameron was talking about internet privacy and banning certain websites, such as WhatsApp and Instagram. Around this same time, we had a very low unemployment rate, rioting to do with race, class, and economic decline, and we had just come out of a war in Iraq. It made me think, where have I heard all of this before? What was happening here? Rioting due to no jobs, economic recession, and a war. Sounds a little too familiar to me. With the banning of certain films to cover all of this social breakdown, I had to look a little further. Mutilations of bodies, cannibalism, gang rape. That is what a video nasty is. So said Graham Bright, the Conservative MP who introduced the Private Members Bill that was passed as the Video Recordings Act. Giving statutory power to the British Board of Film Classification, the Act made it illegal to sell or supply a video that the board hadn't examined or classified. It effectively banned certain examples of exploitation and horror cinema, which the media had labelled video nasties, and helped build the hysteria surrounding them. This has been fed by newspapers such as the Daily Mail, which, in July 1983, launched a campaign with the front page headline, "Ban Video Sadism Now," described the rape of our children's minds, and in a story headed "Taken Over by Something Evil from the TV Set," suggested that a boy had been possessed by one such film.
And at the end of telling this story, there was a quote from the Margate police, in which they said that the attacker must have been influenced either by video nasties or a new moon. Now, I think that very nicely captures something about the way this whole issue has been presented, that actually that makes it sound very like witchcraft. And the way in which the whole campaign has presented itself has actually ascribed quite magical powers to flickering pictures on screens and how they hypnotise and then drug and then addict children.
The first videocassette recorders went on sale in the UK in 1979, and by 1984 they could be found in a quarter of British homes. Hollywood held back its biggest titles, and so an unregulated rental market was flooded with cheap imports. Italian zombie films and American slashers bought up and distributed by enterprising one- or two-man operations. This was a sort of entrepreneurial enterprise of which the Tory government of the day was usually in favour, but Margaret Thatcher's faith in free market capitalism was matched only by a puritanical morality that titles such as The Evil Dead, I Spit on Your Grave, and The Driller Killer were calibrated to offend. Distributors of films without recognisable titles or famous stars had to resort to attention-grabbing marketing. The boxes featured wonderfully lurid artwork, frequently making promises to the gore-hungry that the films didn't keep. In March 1982, distributor Go Video sent a copy of its release Cannibal Holocaust, along with a faux outrage letter to the moral crusader Mary Whitehouse.
And if they're worrying about, and if I as a mother were worrying in the evening as to whether there were certain videos, or even more, if I didn't have them in my home, knowing that children would go out round the corner to their friends and so on and see them there.
It wanted the free media coverage that a little bit of controversy brings, but what ensued was a full-scale moral panic. Responding to political pressure, the Obscene Publications Squad began raiding video rental shops, and, in 1983, to save the police the trouble and the cost in overtime of watching the seized material, the Director of Public Prosecutions drew up a list of 72 films that it was suspected might be in breach of the Obscene Publications Act. The titles that were found obscene were burnt. No other country had the same anger at the arrival of video technology. There was a very British class element to this. After a screening of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for British Film Institute members, the chief censor, James Furman, said, "It's all right for you middle-class cineasts to see this film, but what would happen if a factory worker in Manchester happened to see it?"
What happened was true.
We also have an island mentality. A majority on the list were foreign films, so there was also the insular view that we needed protection from outside forces. Almost all of the nasties have since had UK DVD releases, and while a handful remain potent, The Evil Dead, Last House on the Left, Cannibal Holocaust, the majority are tame, trashy, or downright inept. Rewatching them today, the 1980s hysteria seems laughable, but the nasty saga should be taken seriously as a reminder that moral panics provide distractions and simplistic explanations for difficult social problems. And so laws made in response tend to be arbitrary or draconian. It would be sad to have to look back at the present from a less libertarian future in which the internet had been made a scapegoat and restricted the way video once was.
Would the ruling parties enforce absolute power?
We're at war with the people of Eurasia.